Europe is incredibly diverse. There are 4 climatic zones ranging from the Arctic to the Mediterranean and from glaciers to deserts, bestowing everything upon us that we need to live. 40% of the land is being used for agriculture, and this is a necessity because Europe is the continent with the second highest density of population, of approximately 70 people per square kilometre. Our agriculture provides for us all perfectly on a comparatively small stretch of land. But how is this possible? How do we manage to keep harvesting bigger crops, even though the agricultural area does not increase? And what will the future bring?
Today's farmers are harvesting and milking more than 50 or even 100 years ago. We are in the west of France. In Unger, Wednesday is market day. Vendors from the region Pays de la Loire are offering their produce. Fresh, local, and organically grown.
The French are real fans of organic food, so they say at least. Surveys reveal that 69% buy organically grown food on a regular basis, more than anywhere else. However, if one looks at sales figures, it transpires that organically grown food constitutes only 3% of overall sales. Even so, there is an upward tendency, and good intentions are certainly a good start.
Nicolas Piron sells his produce here every Wednesday and Saturday. He has a lot of regular customers, among them some restaurant chefs from Unger. Nicolas Piron is an organic farmer. His farm is larger than those of the other organic farmers in the area. He is absolutely convinced that bigger is better as far as organic farming is concerned. Many varieties and large quantities. That's the only way he can supply his produce year-round to his regular customers. And as he markets his wares himself, the regulars are extremely important to him.
In my opinion, our ware farming is not typical for the region. Around here, the majority specialize in livestock farming, whereas we cultivate vegetables. And we are still the only ones in the region who market their produce via direct sales.
It is not easy to produce organically grown vegetables in large quantities. The yield per hectare is usually less than with conventional cultivation methods, because organic farmers refrain from using chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Therefore, Nicolas Piron needs a larger crop area. He has founded a cooperative along with some neighboring farmers. 30 kilometers outside Unger, La Pichonnerie was formed, a GAEC as they are called in France.
France is Europe's second largest market for organic products. The French love organically grown food, and more French farmers are shifting to organic farming. Vegetable farmers rank second in the organic farmer ranking. The majority of farming enterprises have specialized in organic beef, with organic pork taking the last place. Beef is still one of the main staples of French cuisine.
All the members of Nicolas Piron's cooperative are producing organically.
What sets us apart from others is our way of farm management. There are many vegetable farms, even ones that offer organically grown vegetables or sell their produce via direct sales. But they are mostly small farms with just 1 or 2 people. We're a cooperative with autonomous partners who also employ quite a large number of people. In our enterprise, we are approximately 10 people. 4 of them are responsible for dairy products, which means their production and sales. 6 people work in vegetable production, and then we have a few colleagues who help out on market days. All in all, we farm 20 hectares. The largest part, 12 hectares, are right here, and we grow about 50 varieties of vegetables.
So far, the cooperative has been a great success.
The interesting thing about organic farming is the fact that interest and demand has continuously grown over the last few years. We are reacting to a need. This is not at all discouraging. On the contrary, we are convinced that we are on the right path and should carry on in this vein.
Nicolas Piron has been able to increase his acreage over the last few years. But land is finite, and most farms have to opt for other solutions.
Mankind has always wanted more. That's why man began to increase the harvest by breeding animals, devising irrigation systems, and using natural fertilizers. But that was just the beginning. The plough supplanted the hoe, and instead of pulling the plough himself, man harnessed horses to it. But the use of machines created the biggest boom. With every additional horsepower, the yield increased exponentially. Animals and plants have also radically changed in the course of time. Teosinte, the origin of the corn cob from Central America, initially had about 60 kernels. Today, there are 500 kernels on the average corn cob. That's 8 times as many. Crop protection, fertilizers, irrigation systems, along with the new technology, they all contribute to the fact that yields have grown tenfold in the last 200 years.
For the past few years, today's farmers have been using technologies which, at first glance, have little to do with arable farming and livestock farming. Here in Westerhausen, in the middle of Germany, the Klamroth country estate uses digital technology on the fields and in the stables. What looks like a run-of-the-mill combine harvester is really a mobile computer worth several hundred thousands of euros. Christoph Klamroth is a dairy farmer on a family-run farm. He consistently capitalizes on new technologies. This is his method of continuing to work as efficiently as possible. On his field in Saxony-Anhalt, he grows the feed for his cattle. He keeps having to plow, seed, and harvest 350 hectares. This is time-consuming and monotonous work. But the new GPS-controlled tractor finds the ideal route itself with the aid of satellites. The driver no longer steers. The tractor keeps on track so perfectly that not even a small spot is worked twice.
Some people say the farmer is superfluous on the tractor. Well, certainly for us it makes the work so much easier. We're working 24-hour shifts here. That's 12 hours for each driver. And if you're driving all night, it's incredibly hard to hold an exact course. So now the tractor takes this on and performs this task perfectly. We don't even deviate by a centimeter.
These days, the computer is equally important as a farmer's working tool as the tractor and the plough. Christoph Klamroth collects data at each step of the process. He uses today's results to decide on how to work the field the following year. The more data he has, the more precise his calculations for the future will be.
The combine harvester gauges the yield and the moisture every 13 seconds. It digitally saves this to a map, which I can load into my computer at home later and create maps for the fertilizer spreader and crop sprayer.
Seeding material, fertilizer and pesticides will be distributed next year in such a manner that every last spot receives the ideal amount. This saves on fertilizer and is therefore good for the environment. However, Christoph Klamroth is a realist. Digitalization in farming is not a panacea.
We can make digital application maps for fertilizer and crop protection, and we can create the most fancy maps. But if God doesn't send us any rain, it won't make any difference.
There are 120 dairy cows in the stables here in Westerhausen.
Large farms with lots of animals. That sounds as though there is not much space for each cow. However, in Germany's large farming enterprises, there are theoretically 1.3 hectares per cow. On small farms, it's just a quarter hectare. The smaller the farm, the less space there is for each cow. That having been said, large farms only use a small part of their acreage as pasturage. The majority is used to cultivate forage crops. Only every third cow on a large farm actually gets to graze in a pasture on a regular basis.
When Christoph Klamroth goes into his stable, it's not for milking. He has invested in an automatic milking system. Since then, the cows decide themselves when to go and get milked. When they feel the pressure, they know just what to do. When a cow enters the milking parlor, the automatic milking system begins the fully automated procedure. First, the teats are cleaned and simultaneously stimulated for milking. In the meantime, the cow receives concentrated feed in the exact amount that was calculated for it. Each udder is individual. However, with the use of lasers, the so-called teat cup finds its target. Before the milk flows into the collecting bowl, it is tested. If it is contaminated with germs, it goes directly into the drain. At the end, the gate opens and the cow makes room for the next one. But that's not all.
The automatic milking system is capable of collecting an enormous amount of data about the cow. The black line is the milk yield. Here, this is just over 40 liters. The blue line is the activity in the cow shed. Here's the time of insemination.
Therefore, the automatic milking system is helping to observe the health of the herd.
More and more family-run farms use automatic milking systems because it's such a simplification of the work. We are no longer obliged to go to the cowshed at fixed times, and yet we have a much better overview on the animal.
High-tech in agriculture reduces work and helps maintain a consistent quality level. This work has very little in common with the romantic notions entertained by a lot of city dwellers about a rural life in sync with nature.
Luxembourg, Austria and Germany are at the very forefront worldwide when it comes to digitalization in agriculture. And this affects the farmers' lives. Where digitalization reigns, farmers are able to sleep a bit longer. Since the year 2000, German farmers are able to get almost an extra hour's sleep on average. In Austria, it's 66 minutes, and in Luxembourg, theoretically, even more than 2 hours. This is how much the daily working hours of the farmers have decreased. And that's not all. In those countries where e-agriculture is on the rise, deaths due to cardiovascular diseases have declined. Not only technology, but also tradition contributes to the variety of our plates. Even our breakfast is like a stroll through Europe's most beautiful regions. There is delicious ham from local farms, grain from France, juicy Spanish oranges, Dutch cheese, Polish apples and carrots, and so very much more. Every day we relish the diversity of Europe. Open markets and borders make it possible. Therefore, each farmer produces whatever grows best in his region and supplies the market with it. For instance, the majority of oranges come from Spain. Holland leads the way when it comes to growing onions with 1.4 million tons. Just as a comparison, an adult blue whale weighs 140 tons on average. Therefore, the Dutch annual onion harvest weighs as much as 10,000 adult blue whales. European agriculture is simply very well conceived, and we can taste this every day.
However, it is often a long road from the stable and the field onto our dining table. On average, every 10th lorry carries agricultural produce. The logistics centers of the supermarkets are the new big reloading points. Whatever arrives here has usually passed several borders. Because our food drives, flies, or swims hundreds of kilometers around the world. Supermarkets require large numbers of produce of consistent quality, and they need it reliably and on a regular basis. That's another reason why farming enterprises keep getting bigger. With its vast plains and its favorable climate, France is the largest producer of grain in the European Union. Almost 70 million tons are harvested here, approximately 22% of the grain produced in the EU. The maize fields of Antony-Blordier are located in the west of France, between Tours and Angers. The majority of his harvest is used on his own farm as fodder, but he processes the remainder and sells it. Antony-Blordier, 43, is a French farmer. He always wanted to be a farmer, and he also wanted to stay right here in his native region.
I've been fascinated by farming since I was a child. My parents were farmers, and I've always worked alongside my father. And I also always wanted to be independent. These days, more and more technology is used in farming because the number of farmers in France is decreasing, but their livestock numbers are increasing, as is their acreage. Therefore, mechanization and new technologies are very important.
Antony-Blordier has only had his own farm for 5 years. But even in this short period of time, the number of permanent employees has dwindled. Occasionally, harvest hands will support the permanent staff.
There are 3 of us responsible for arable farming, from spring to autumn and from planting to harvesting. We're able to farm this area with 3 people due to our CUMA, our cooperative for the use of farm machinery. This way, we're able to use high-performance equipment for a low price, and we are able to invest in innovative material and new technologies.
CUMA is a type of cooperation which is found quite frequently in France these days. Machinery and technology that is too expensive for an individual is bought and shared as a collective. Thus, individual farmers become part of a large and efficient enterprise, which has a better chance of surviving on the market.
To date, we are a federation of 4 partners with 8 employees. We produce 1,800,000 litres of milk on the farm, 15% of which is used for other dairy products. Annually, we make yogurt and cheese out of 250,000 litres of milk. We have 340 hectares of arable land. On these 340 hectares, we have planted 50 hectares with grain maize and 55 hectares with forage maize.
Nous avons ensilé 55 hectares de maïs fourrage.
Antony-Blordier sells part of his grain and his milk, but he has no influence on the sales price. Whether he makes any profit or not is determined by his costs.
These days, we have no choice if we want to maintain a strong presence in the future. We have to be productive, no matter what product we grow per hectare. I think that our yield will have to increase over the next years, and we have to do whatever it takes to make this happen.
The European pigsties are also all about efficiency. The demand for inexpensive meat is very large. 250 million pigs are slaughtered in the EU every year, the majority of them in Germany. In the old days, the pig used to be mainly a food waste processor, but in the past decades, it has become a fully optimized source of meat.
Pigs are similar to humans insofar as there are large ones, small ones, fat ones, skinny ones, and lethargic ones. That makes the world a bit more colourful, but it's a problem for breeding, because only animals with similar qualities can be kept and fed in the same manner and slaughtered at the same time. The best method of making the animals as similar as possible is hybrid breeding. This means that one selects the pigs with the best qualities. These are bred with each other until there are enough pigs with these qualities. This is the basis for mass animal production and ensures that we get as much meat as possible. The boar is brought back into the breeding process in stage 3. At this point only, the fattening pigs get sired in very large quantities. After 3 months, the piglets are transferred to the fattening units and get slaughtered after another 5 months. Exactly 1 year after their procreation, they land on our plates, in great bulk to satisfy our enormous consumption of meat.
These are future fattening pigs. Dr. Britta Becker manages a pig farm in the north of Germany. Here in the farrowing stable, which is the delivery room of the farm, so to speak, the piglets remain with the mother sow for 4 weeks.
I would say this is a very standard farrowing stable, as you would find it anywhere in Germany. The layout of the pens and how the sows are stabled, this is not out of the ordinary.
In the farrowing stable, the mother sows are very restricted in their movement, for good reason.
This is due to the loss of piglets. It's higher when the piglets are able to run around in the pen, and the sow just throws herself down wherever she pleases. Here she's forced to lie down very carefully. That's what the support bracket is for. It encumbers the sow so that she can only lie down very slowly, giving the piglets the time to move out of the way before mom throws herself down.
These farrowing pens are often criticized by animal rights activists.
It's not nice. I would never claim that it's nice, but it's sensible. You have to think of the piglets as well. And the rest of the time, the sows pretty much have free range in our facility.
The waiting area for pregnant sows. Dr. Britta Becker makes the animals stand up in regular intervals and checks whether they are moving normally or have possibly sustained any injuries.
Of course, it's very strenuous for the sow. It's a big achievement. A piglet weighs about 1.1 or 1.2 kilos at birth, times 17 or 18 piglets per litter, and then you have to add in the expulsion of the afterbirth. That's a great synthesis output. We demand quite a lot from the sows. Therefore, I think it's very important that they're kept under good conditions.
Treating the animals well is not merely a question of attitude and a good conscience. Healthy animals are a prerequisite for the farmers to be able to sell their meat. Apple orchards as far as the eye can see. 30% of all Polish apples grow in the Grojec region, south of Warsaw. Every third European apple is harvested in Poland. 20 billion apples per year. 5.5 billion of those are exported and travel much further than one would think.
And therefore, it is not the New Zealand kiwi which is the world travel champion. The kiwi is exported to 67 countries, but the Polish apple has even more stamps in its passport. It is imported by 78 countries, including the Antarctic.
Those are unbelievable amounts, considering that every apple is harvested by hand. Michał Lakowicz is the boss of the apple trees. Due to the Russian ban on fruit and vegetable imports from the EU, he has lost his most important customers. It was impossible to sell more apples in Poland. Therefore, new customers needed to be found abroad, so that he could keep on growing apples.
Oczywiście duży klient potrzebuje dużego dostawcy.
Yes, of course. A major customer needs a major supplier, because a small supplier would be unable to deliver the necessary quantities. This would be bad for commercial relationships. And apples have to be available in markets the year round. Therefore, we had to adapt.
Niezachwiana praktycznie przez cały sezon. No i do tego standardu musieliśmy się dostosować.
Michał Lakowicz didn't start at square one. He remembers the large-scale structures that used to be commonplace in Poland.
Nasza firma jest firmą rodzinną. Rodzina zajmuje się produkcją jabłek.
We are a family-run fruit orchard and have been producing apples for 5 generations.
Żeby kooperować.
Now we've joined forces with some neighbors and acquaintances to form a business. There are 15 of us. This gives us the opportunity to package our fruits centrally and to export it to the most remote places.
Do różnych klientów, często bardzo odległych.
Today, there are 27 farmers in his federation of companies, Lasad. This makes his farm federation one of the largest in Poland, also in terms of acreage. But size alone is not responsible for their success. The nature of cultivation has undergone a significant change. In the past, the apple trees were big. Each of the sturdy branches of the trees would bear a lot of fruit. However, these days, the area is more reminiscent of vineyard acreage. There are no tall trees to be found.
Realnie rzecz biorąc, jest to zmiana.
There has effectively been a change in the cultivation of apples.
Tak zwane karłowe.
These days, there are so-called dwarf trees.
Młode gałęzie
The young branches bear better fruit,
dają
both with regards to quantity and quality.
jak i ilościowym.
Thin branches, small trees. A couple of years ago, there were 500 trees per hectare. Nowadays, there are 3,000. On Michał Lakowicz's cooperative share alone, that makes 60,000 trees with a yield of 800 tons of apples per annum. A forest of apple trees. And the cooperative's washing, sorting and packing facilities are close by. Each customer receives exactly what he ordered with regards to produce size, packaging type, and packaging size. When Russia stopped being a viable customer, the cooperative had to grow new varieties of apples. The customers in other countries didn't want the apples the Russians preferred. Today, a delegation from China is visiting. They are wholesalers who want to check the capacity of the cooperative and, of course, the quality of the apples. Michał Lakowicz has also established contacts with India, Algeria, Nigeria, and Belarus. The guests are being served the cooperative's latest product, the energy drink Yabu, caffeine-infused apple juice. Production has only just begun. This is another reaction to the loss of the Russian market. Michał Lakowicz is aiming to develop his cooperative from a mere producer of apples to a supplier of groceries.
Dodatkowo zmusiło nas to nad myśleniem nad nowymi formami sprzedaży.
Naturally, we had to think about new sales opportunities, and that's how we hit on the idea of the energy drink. A few years ago, we wouldn't have come up with such a concept because we were doing well without any innovations. These days, ideas like this are ripe for the picking because we want to encourage consumers to consume as much fruit as possible.
Zwiększać spożycie owoców.
The land in Europe is diverse, and the produce it delivers day after day and year after year is equally diverse. Whether by means of organic farming or industrial food production, the land feeds us safely and in adequate amounts. The methods of cultivation are as diverse as the land itself. The people farming the land have a responsibility far beyond their own patch of soil. They decide what we receive, in which quality, and also what our cultivated landscapes look like, how diverse they are, and to what extent they are not only production environments, but also living environments and recreational environments for everyone.